Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. As mentioned, my name is Chibeze Ayanacho, or Chibs, CEO and founder of ARMR Systems. ARMR is an early-stage med device company and manufacturer, and our core mission mandate is to save lives. By way of a quick introduction or background, a lot of our founding team, our Coasties and from the Coast Guard Academy, myself personally, I'm a biomedical engineer that came to this problem kind of through personal experience. I'm a victim of a traumatic car accident where the car went off the road, flipped 6 times. I came out bleeding from my head. Fortunately, I was near a hospital and able to receive care, but many of our team, I've had family and friends, and we know hundreds of stories where colleagues who were warfighters or first responders didn't have the same access to care and weren't able to have as good an outcome as I did, right? So that's what we bring to this, and that's why we're really stoked about this mission. So getting to it, bleed out is a big issue. In military context, it's the #1 cause of preventable death. And here at home, it's the top killer of folks who are under 50 years old, right? So in the military context, we kind of know this. It's the warfighter who gets injured, but succumbs to their injuries before having time to receive care. They bleed out. Here at home, it looks different. It's car accidents, workplace incidents, industrial accidents, the things of life. And unfortunately, there's this rising tide of mass shooter events, right? So this is what we're talking about, what's called pre-hospital trauma, where you're injured and you get the clock starts. You got a couple minutes or hours to receive help, or else you expire. And so in this area, while it's an old problem, there aren't that many devices able to treat complex bleed out. So your femoral artery, injuries towards your trunk and your torso, your traditional tourniquets were ineffective against this. And so what you have is this issue where there's nothing available. There's this huge gap where there is no reliable, accessible standard of care for complex bleed out. And we know this in that if something were to happen right now to most of us, we wouldn't really have a go-to device, like a EpiPen or a Narcan that we know is going to solve it and treat it immediately, right? And so we thought that's the problem. That's the essential, persistent problem that for our warfighters, first responders, there's really still nothing that's a go-to standard of care. And so we asked the question, hey, why is this okay? Who deserves to die? And we pioneered a new way. And so we call our solution is the JT5. What we did was we took traditional tourniquet vascular clamp means and we changed the form factor to close. You can think about this, we say, as an airbag for your cardiovascular system. And just to carry the analogy, airbags are dumb tech, right? They're bags of air. But I think what makes them really powerful is they're prophylactic. They're sneakily in every car door, glove box, or in the ceilings these days. And what makes them powerful is at the point of injury or impact, right? They deploy and mitigate damage. So that's what saved my life many years ago. And we think studying the history of combat casualty care response, there needs to be a similar systems approach to this problem. And so the device here, again, is this vascular clamp that we changed into close. There's 2 components. There's a worn apparel component, and there's this hardware component we call the puck. The apparel component, is the idea here for this configuration is it lives in the environment. So it's a new type of safety gear, safety kit. And whether you can see it or not, every single person in this image, this is Borstar Special Operations and ATF and some members at DHS. Everyone has it, right? Whether you can see it or not. And the harness is particularly important in that it is a targeting system. So we, working with world-class partners at Mayo and the Navy, developed a first of its kind predictive anthropometric cardiovascular sizing system. That's a mouthful, but basically we know exactly where your arteries are going to be if you have our device on, essentially. So we direct lay people to go to this site to treat their injury so they don't have to have all this extra medical knowledge. So we target, pretty as up high and as tight as you can possibly go in these really critical junction areas. And so the way this would work is versus a warfighter getting injured and having to call for a medic or be, extracted to a field hospital, I can be my own medic or they can be their own medic, right? So the way it works is if you have an injured limb, you deploy on that limb, you deploy the strap around it. We tell you X marks the spot, go to the X. You then take the hardware component, go to that site, and simply ratchet down until you have occlusive pressure, and that's it. About 4 easy steps. And so a device like this is pretty powerful. It's lightweight, it's adaptable, and, so it's conducive to 1 leg, 2 legs, any kind of combination of injury, which is pretty, when you're outside of a hospital environment in the field, a lot of things can happen, right? So this is very, very flexible in terms of injury patterns. It can handle incredibly fast, right? Because it's immediately available at the point of injury. And the big thing here is it's conducive to what's called buddy care. So I can treat myself, I can treat you, and vice versa. And we don't have to be medics. We don't have to be medical personnel. And this effectively increases access to the highest quality of care by orders of magnitude. And so that's really, some of the promise of this really great device. Big to know is it works, right? So we've been in development, again, working with partners at the DoD and elsewhere for the last 8-9 years, and we've spared no expense in making the most effective and validated product on the market. So we've been able to take it through several clinical studies showing, efficacy during transport across a diverse patient population. And so this thing is 3 to 5 times more effective than anything available on the market. And this is backed by years of research, several patents, as well as 2 successful FDA meetings with the DoD, ensuring that we have a pretty clear path to approval. We know exactly the 2 things we need to do to get this over the line and into the market. So we're very proud of that. Outside of a great product, it's a great, I think, business opportunity. So, we're targeting a large established market of millions of military, paramilitary, and first responders who are desperate for a solution. Again, there's truly this persistent gap in the continuum of combat casualty care and trauma care, and there's getting incredibly high need. We're really tapping into that $20 billion plus wound care market. It's a big segment. We'll start small with special operations, small tactics units who obviously are seeing these threats on a daily basis. But this is also applicable to big military or first responders on the street, as well as this can be adapted for civilian environments, EMS, sports enthusiasts, industrial safety. We can kind of take this technology and put it in a wall unit, say in an airport, or add it to existing trauma kits, and also be used in a disaster relief global health scenario where it's you're off the grid and need access to immediate care, right? So again, big opportunity, and really exciting opportunity to impact at a large scale. We've had, again, storied history. We've got a lot of good things done. A few things that we're really proud of, especially, are as follows, right? The big thing is user buy-in. So from the very, very beginning, we've worked with the end user, the warfighter, as well as law enforcement to make sure we're building the right product. So we've done over 8 to 9 deployments with special operations. We've also had a lot of buy-in and support from medical command. Dr. Colonel Rasmussen, he was a former director of trauma, essentially, for the DoD, and said, hey, for us, this is the next generation tourniquet. So the intent of this, for folks at medical command and in San Antonio is, if we're able to show the science at a smaller scale, that this, systematically can change and transform how trauma care is rendered, throughout the services, and also obviously into other environments, law enforcement, and the civilian world. So it's really exciting, and we're very proud of that partnership. We've been able to, again, this kind of built on that point, but we've had a lot of support from the Department of Defense, from the Pentagon, through the Air Force, the Army. We've won several, contract awards. More recently, it's about a month ago, they provided more funding to pay for our FDA studies, again, showing just continued support and enthusiasm for this product, and an interest in getting this from the, kind of from the lab to the field. And that's kind of the step we are at now. Lastly, we just wanted to emphasize, this is a dual use product, right? So it's not just for the military. We've had, equal amounts of interest from law enforcement and first responders and folks in the civilian realm. So this is, again, something that can immediately impact communities and departments immediately, right? So it's just trauma is trauma, and we're just looking to save lives wherever we can. I think the last traction point I always say is our team. We got a big team. This doesn't have everyone, a great group of advisors. And these are folks who've given their lives in service for that, and happy to share more about their qualifications. We're currently seeking $1.2 million to commercialize this product, right? So we have, gone through 8 years of R&D. We've technically de-risked it. Now it's time to invest in production, get this through FDA, and field this in sales and business development. What's special about our deal, so you're joining a great group of investors from across the country, from Boston to here in Maryland, Florida, Atlanta, and many others. I think cool things about this deal, we are able to offer some really cool incentives, including matching fund from the state of Maryland, and this, unique opportunity for an immediate 33% ROI. So what I'm referring to here is Maryland has a special biotechnology investor tax credit. We are a certified Maryland biotechnology company in a opportunity zone and hub zone. And so if you invest in us or a biotech company, investors will receive, cash back in either form of a cash rebate or a tax credit in the following tax year. Last year, during a quick bridge round, we were able to offer 50% of back to investors. This year, we're able to offer 33%. So what this looks like, we got this little image here, is essentially if you invest $300,000, you're able to get a $100,000 rebate back in the following tax year, which is huge, right? You keep your non-dilutive to the investor, it increases your liquidity, reduces the risk while allowing us to still impacting this problem. So we just wanted to highlight that it's a big opportunity, particularly in this environment. But it's one of the great kind of unfair advantages we have being here in Maryland and being proximal to medical command and the customer. So I wanted to highlight that. I'll end with this. An early advisor of our team was Brigadier General Bill Crosley in Atlanta, and his fight was Vietnam. But he said this. If my friend who was killed in action had this device, he would have retired this year. Our boys need this now. So it just underlines, this is an old problem, it's a persistent problem, but we do have a solution to fill this gap. And I think we're in a position, the time is right to impact and save lives. So please follow up with me to learn more. And thank you for your service, and let's save lives.